What's up, Tiki? How are you, buddy?
I'm not ornery because of either. Because one thing that's not broken is the Giants.
Yeah, that's true.
Stride forward. You know, look, I've been thinking a lot about this weekend's game against the Philadelphia Eagles and what it means. And I keep reading everywhere. It's a meaningless game. The Giants are locked into the 6th seed. First of all, there is no such thing as a meaningless game in the NFL. Now, if you are 14-2 at this point in the season, and you're locked into the number 1 seed, you know what? Maybe it's meaningless. You don't have much to improve upon. But for the New York Giants, this is not a meaningless game. And in fact, I think they have to play this game to win. We've been thinking about it since they won against the Colts. Like, what does this game mean? How do you approach it? Do you go in the same mantra that Coach Coughlin had in 2007, trying to beat the then undefeated New England Patriots? Or do you rest the guys that are banged up a little bit? First of all, the Giants don't have a ton of injury issues on their team right now. Obviously, Adoree Jackson, but he's been banged up for a while. Dexter Lawrence, I believe, had a rest day. Leonard Williams has a little bit of a neck injury. Azeez Ojulari is coming back from an ankle injury, but he played last week, so there's not a ton of injuries. There's a ton of guys on IR, but there's not a ton of injuries. If I'm looking at this game from a Giants standpoint, there's a couple of things that need to happen. One, you got to get better because they're not good enough to sit here and say, yeah, we're just going to cruise into the playoffs and we're going to have this magical run. You're not good enough to believe that that's going to happen yet. Number two, confidence builds with winning. Right? When you win, it just begets winning because you learn how to, in situations, do the right thing and make the right play, make an ankle, tackle stop on whoever it may be, or hold your block an extra second longer so that Saquon can split one. Like, you learn how to do those things by playing at the highest level. And then one that doesn't mean anything except for this like ethereal plane is respect, man. Nobody outside of New York looks at the Giants and says, yeah, that's a Super Bowl contending team. They're in the playoffs. There's no respect for the Giants. It's a cute story that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane put together this team. And yes, they're so well coached, but there's no respect. The only way to get respect is to keep winning and beat the best team for most part of the year in the NFC, who is the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's not even a question anymore. I know people are talking about it, like, should they rest or, should they play this game to win it? Play it to win it, man. You're not good enough not to, and you got to earn that respect. That's how I look at this weekend's game for the New York Giants.
Dove, have you recorded all this already? In addition to the stuff that we sent Sean Payton, by the way, that has been sent. Yes,
that has been.
Dove, you're running on this back there.
We're all set.
Okay, and I'm not even going to throw names out there. That will be reckless. And fundamentally, I don't disagree with you. But don't change the tune, God forbid, if we come in here Monday and so-and-so tears a biceps, blows out a knee, has a grade 1 hamstring, does something that really compromises the game that matters. I know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I do. The Giants are nowhere, deep enough or into the
development of this team.
Yes, where you can kind of take some of these liberties and, all right, you know how to reprogram. I'm talking about specific, veteran. You've been here before. You know how to reprogram yourself. Like Daniel Jones. He's got to play some playoff games. He's got the more high leverage games he plays, even if it's still a regular season game against a divisional opponent, will obviously serve him well. It's not a Rodgers or a Brady or that kind of a thing, or a Mahomes if you want to sit him down, if it's okay, or Josh Allen, who's played a lot of big games even though he's very young. Fundamentally, I do agree with you. Really on most levels, I kind of agree with you.
Well, here's where it comes down
let's
to.
not double back on Monday if something goes wrong, God forbid, and say that, maybe we should have second-guessed it.
They should have. Well, we heard Brian Daboll, it's already Wednesday, so Monday, talking about what they were going to do. And you got to put it in context. He said, and this is quote, we do what's best for the team. But you got to put that in context because so much of it was based around who they might potentially play and whether it was worth, fighting the Eagles because the Eagles could lose the division. So do we want to be spoilers to the Eagles and let the Cowboys maybe jump them, and why you would do that for the Cowboys? I don't know. So it became like this convoluted thought process of, well, if we beat the Eagles and the Eagles fall, they're no longer the division champions. They're no longer the number 1 seed. And God, we just stuck it to the Eagles, right? Who cares about that? Right. And I think what Brian Daboll was saying when he said, we'll do what's best for our team, he wasn't talking about, at least I don't think so, we got to rest guys. This guy's he's had a grinding of a season. Daniel Jones has been fantastic. We're going to give Tyrod Taylor some snaps. Saquon Barkley's rushed for over almost 1,400 yards. We're going to lay him down so he's healthy and fresh. I don't think he was referring to that rest piece of week 18, the last week of their season. I think he was saying, I don't give a you-know-what about the Eagles. I don't care about the Cowboys or the 49ers, whoever else is trying to get to seeding, places in the NFC. I got to do what's best for my team. And what I think is best for this team, because they're not good enough to just chill, is to try to win a game. I'll say it again. Winning begets winning. You just learn how to do those things when you repeatedly prepare to win a football game and not take your foot halfway off the gas trying to get to the finish line. So, I've thought about it so many different ways, because is it rest or is it?
What would you want as a player?
I'd want to go ball, dude. I just that's just who I was. And part of it is statistical. It's like, I want to have my great season. Part of it is just, it feels good to win, man.
Yep.
Even if that win is meaningless, it feels good to win, and you can't discount that at all.
All right, so Teek's saying, let's go. Play this as if it's, game 8 or game 10 or game 12. And again, I don't fundamentally disagree. And you reference back to what Daboll said the other day on Monday, and I kind of took away the same thing. Like, it's more about, at least what I heard, at least what I think he meant.
Yeah.
More about the direction and the growth of the team.
His team.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Rather than either specific to an opponent or even specific to, resting certain players. It's more totality, more about vision, more about grinding. And, how can you... Listen, I'm not going to say the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl, because every time we've said that in the past, they seemingly do, at least the last 2. So I'm not going there. But how do you project this quest for a championship without finishing the race? It's almost a contradiction.
It is a contradiction.
So I like to battle you, because it's more fun when I disagree with you. But the more I really process this, I don't think Tiki is wrong.
Yeah,
I don't think you're wrong.
I think a lot of people, and the reason this came, it was sitting on the front of my mind, is because, almost every article, I don't want to say everyone, but almost every article I read starts with, well, the Giants are playing a meaningless game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, meaningless as it pertains to their playoff standing, but it's the farthest thing from meaningless. And I can't say this enough. This Giants team is so well coached, and they have gotten better, and they are good. But they are not good enough to just sit back and toll a week and say we're going to be fine when we get to the second season, where the intensity picks up, obviously, where the stakes pick up. The game, the playoff checks are there, right? There's just so much extra incentive in the next season, the playoff season, that you can't chill going into it. And I've said this for all week. I hate the preseason, last week of the season approach, that mentality that some people have. We're just going to chill and chill. We'll play the second team. I hate that, because it takes you out of what you've done for now 17 weeks. It used to be 16. It takes you out of this process that you've been in, that you've been perfecting, that you've been preparing yourself for, and it puts you back into the, yeah, it's just training camp, lazy August, just chilling, we'll go get dinner. We'll go. It doesn't matter. We'll play some video. Forget that, man. I think you got to approach it the 180-degree opposite.
All right, Coach Tiki.
I'm serious, man.
I love it. I love it. Get me fired up.
As you get into December, and more importantly now January, you're in the playoffs, you got to approach every week like you're preparing for the playoffs.
Let's go. 877-337-6666 is our number inside of our Town Fair Tire studio here on the Tiki and Tierney Show. Our friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Question for you, at least for a moment, say independent of what the Giants are doing, but just specific to other teams' situation. Where do you stand? Because this is very different what Daboll's going through, but because the Eagles are a playoff team, the Giants are a playoff team. But what about if you are a bad team, okay, and you are playing a team that is still has a puncher's chance for a playoff berth, for the authenticity of the sport, for the spirit of competition, do you owe it to the league and the teams that are vying for those? Like how
that is such a good question. That's such a good question, BT, because I've heard it both ways.
Yep.
Like it's not fair if you just lay down. Like you're tanking in basketball. You're playing the backups, and not that those guys are trying to lose. You're just playing guys that haven't had a ton of experience. So it comes off as not trying. I've thought about this so many different ways because my gut is you have to play it like you're trying to win it because it's not fair. But then I hear not fair, and I say, first of all, this is a private enterprise, meaning the NFL. It's a private enterprise owned by and run by billionaires,
but with very public discourse. So the optics matter.
Yes, projected on our TVs across the country and the world, really, and now because we're in streaming services for billions of dollars. It's an entertainment property. Fairness doesn't matter. Like it does, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the product is interesting. Now, if you got too many of these teams that are just laying down and it's just not interesting, that affects the whole. But from a fairness standpoint, I can't argue that. I really can't because it's a private enterprise and it's really just entertainment. And the search for the division title, the search for the championship, that's the MacGuffin, right? It's the process is what's most important. It's not the thing at the end. It's the process that matters most. So I would say play hard, but if a team decides not to, I'm not going to scream and yell from the ivory tower, so to speak.
So our guy Hoff is our producer. He's also part of the Giants broadcast team. He does that. He produces that every Sunday. You want the Giants, even though he's a Jets guy, which is interesting. Double pockets there.
Yes.
You want to see the Giants come out and lay it out there with the risks that come with it?
After all this year, all these previous years of terrible football, I want to work a Sunday where they're playing badass real games. Yeah. So, I kind of prefer seeing them.
I don't know how anybody wakes up and says, no, I want the Giants to come out with third stringers and get our asses handed to us by a team that we despise 75, 80 miles away, get lit up again.
Who beat the crap out of us.
Yeah. No, you got to come. You got to come to play. I'm totally with you fundamentally. Now, again, you run risks, but football's dangerous. And another reminder, of course, on Monday, and some improvement, which is phenomenal. He's breathing on his own a little bit more, right? I believe the ventilator percentage 50%. Is down to 50%.
That's great.
In terms of reliance. So we are still praying, young man. Keep on fighting. 877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney show on the Fan. All right, Giant fans, you're finally in a spot where you have something meaningful. Last time we saw this was, 2016?
Yeah.
Right before the boat trip down there to Miami. You heard what Tiki said. You've heard what I've said. You're on the clock here. I mean, this is it. You want to talk about this DNA. We talk about DNA within a team, and I know it's a cute way to kind of frame how a team is. As humans, we're born with DNA. Football teams are not born with DNA. They create DNA.
That's right.
And part of the creation of the ultimate winning DNA is really accepting every challenge. So I'm in alignment with Tiki on this. Go out there. Go down to Philly, battle, swing, fight, kick, scrap, punch, pull hair, whatever you got to do.